What does it mean to embrace change and create your future? What does it mean to do that, even when faced with unexpected challenges? In today's episode, we go behind the scenes with Angie as she reflects on the moments that define life. The moments when we not only shift our mindset to survive the challenge in front of us, but level up in a way that empowers us to thrive after. Join us as she shares her journey from a career in banking to her new role in tech and the family experience that forever changed her perspective. In part one of our conversation, we'll dig into her love of learning, we'll explore the habits that fuel her passion for personal and professional development, and reflect on what defines our identity. As Angie shared, our identity is not what we do, it's who we are. And who we are is a reflection of our habits and the decisions we make. Let's go behind the scenes with Angie as she shares the before and after of the moments that shape us. Let's join the conversation. P.S. You have about 60 seconds to get ready for this episode. Welcome to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. My name is Pipke-Painchaud, and I'm excited for you to join me on a journey behind the scenes where we'll dig into the stories of resilience, mindset, and unlock the simple habits that will help you change the game. Before we dive in, I want to express our gratitude for your continued support. Your energy powers our quest to provide content that encourages you to unlock new levels of personal growth and step out of your own comfort zone. If you're inspired by an idea or have a suggestion for a future topic, connect with us at mindgamelevelupyourlife.com. Your feedback is a power-up that helps us continue on this epic adventure. So if you're ready to get out of your own way and explore what you didn't know you needed to know, you've come to the right place. So buckle up, open up your mind. It's time to level up. So welcome back to the Mind Game podcast. This episode, I'm really very excited to have my friend Angie all the way from Montreal. We met through a company that was Magnetic Lashes. It was during COVID, and we just connected. Angie is a person that loves to learn. And so when we would get online, we would go to the sessions that we were at, and then we would stay online and talk for hours about what we were learning about the course that we were taking on artificial intelligence. Angie does an amazing job of learning while she's commuting from one location to another. She is a team leader, not only in the company that we were with, but in her day job. I was going to say in real life, but network marketing is real life as well. And when that experience ended, Angie and I still kept in contact. So I'm super excited to have her here today on the Mind Game podcast. So let's dig into the conversation. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I absolutely love to talk to friends that I've met in the journey through life and COVID especially. I met a lot of people when we were all online a lot, and I think it's so amazing this in this day and age that we can connect with people around the globe essentially. And you are in Montreal, so at the end I'll probably ask you a few questions about what are some of your favorite things to see in Montreal. But let's get started with we could probably do a whole podcast on just what do you enjoy about being in
What's
Montreal.
awesome in Montreal? Mm-hmm.
Yes. So someday I'm going to pull all of those little clips from people that I've talked to in New York and Bali and different parts of the country and pull those together and be like, these are the best places that all of my friends have said to go. So I'm super excited to have you here. And I just wanted to say, I always admire the energy and the skill and the experience that you bring to anything that we've done in the past. You are a true leader. You have a kind heart, and you're always in it for helping everybody in the team level up. And that's why I'm excited to have you here today, because you'll help us all level up our life on the Mind Game podcast. So let's go back and let's just start with where you are currently. So I know there's been a bit of a job change, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now, and then we'll go kind of into the story that got you to here.
Right. So if you asked me this question last week, it actually would have been a different answer because I got promoted. So I just underwent a promotion with my company. I started there in November, and I was a
Nice.
team leader at the company, and then we opened up, or another department rather, got expanded a little bit. So they needed somebody to to oversee the department in a managerial position. So I got a new job at the same company. So three and a
Nice.
half months and a promotion. Very nice. Love the culture. Love everything about the company. So that's what I'm doing now. That's my day job.
Yes.
But we all know that it doesn't stop there.
No, Angie has a lot of things on the go, including a fundraiser and a nonprofit that we'll talk about in
Mhm.
just a little bit. But let's dig into we've kind of talked a little bit about the story of how we met online through a network marketing company. And I think, regardless of what happens in network marketing, it's the amazing people that you meet along the
Yeah.
way and that you connect with. And whether it's face to face jobs, I want to keep wanting to say in real life, but during the day or the people that you meet along the journey that you do in your side hustle or your entrepreneurial spirit and that business, there's always amazing people that you connect with along the way. And I always admired how your absolute love of learning and the how fast you can consume information and then you put it into action because you also have an online marketing company that you had started. I think we had talked about that
Yeah.
probably 6 months to a year ago. It's hard to believe how fast time flies, but let's go back and tell us a little bit about the journey and what's your story of how you got to be a team leader looking after this department?
So in a previous life, I worked in banking. I worked in banking for almost 20 years. I did many different roles in the banking world. It's really funny, right? With banking, you can grow up in a bank and you can do all sorts of different roles because there's so many different departments and different needs. So you can change your career multiple times in your life. And that's what I felt I was doing each time at the bank. But at the base, it was banking. And then the pandemic hit. The pandemic for everybody was horrible. There were some silver linings in there, of course,
Mhm.
meeting
Yes,
amazing
we
people
got to
across
meet.
the country. That's right.
Yes.
Um, but my son got sick. And my son, at 2 years and 8 months, he was diagnosed with a pediatric cancer. They found a tumor in his stomach. So while the pandemic was happening around us, my life wasn't even affected. It was my son and his health. So for a year, we did treatment. So he was almost 3 years old. And like I said, he did treatments for a year. He had chemotherapy for 6 months. He had radiation. He had a stem cell transplant. And he had immunotherapy for 6 months. So the first 6 months, now it was very touch and go. There was a lot of uncertainty until they did the second and final surgery to make sure that the tumor had shrunk. But up until
Great.
that point, we didn't know what was going to happen. And after that, once we knew that the prognosis was good, that
Right.
even though it was stage three, it was very much at the beginnings of a stage three cancer. So once we knew the prognosis was good, we really wanted to give back. So that's how the nonprofit came about. We created Brandon's Buddies. My son's name is Brandon. And we created Brandon's Buddies so that we can give back to the pediatric oncology department at the Montreal Children's Hospital.
And I know we've talked about the story, of your son kind of off and on, and I've met him on some of the calls. He is the sweetest little guy and always would often join us on some of the calls. And that's a hard way to go through the pandemic. First of all, you're isolated, and then not only is the outside world changing, that inside world is changing. And you and I have talked a little bit in the past about how do you how do you keep going in those first, like you said, that first part of the journey. Was there anything that you did just to manage moment to moment,
How
or
did I live?
yes, yeah. For anybody out there that is going through something like
Yeah,
that, and we should just clarify for all of the viewers, Brandon is okay.
he's
He's
in
doing well.
remission.
So
Yes.
that is good. So just
There's
so
a
everybody
happy
knows.
ending to our
Yes, there is a
story.
happy ending. You hinted at that the prognosis was good, but
Right.
I just wanted to
Right.
clarify that.
Mhm.
But I think it's a it's a scare. I can't even imagine how scary that is as a parent. We only have one daughter, and I think you have one child as well.
That's right.
And so when something like that happens, how do you get up the next day? What did you what could you share with other people that would be going through something like that?
Yeah, so for myself, I think what I did was I didn't allow any negative thoughts to go in my head. And, it's a before Brandon got sick, Angie, and there's a after Brandon got sick, Angie. These two people are light years apart from each other. I don't know her, so before Brandon, I would let the little things bother me. I would allow myself to spiral with these ideas, or if something was bothering me, like it would keep me up at night. And
Mhm.
I gave importance to things that were not important. When my son got sick, I was hyper focused on my son. There's nothing else that mattered. And thankfully, because of the pandemic, nobody can come in and, contaminate the house or possibly
Right.
give him any type of germ. So we never had to contend with that because we were all isolating anyways, but we were isolated.
Yes.
Whereas, if my son had got sick the year before or even a couple of years later, like now people can go and they can mingle and they can help each other. But it was really my husband and myself going into the hospital all the time by ourselves. So how did we cope is like I said, I got super hyper focused on Brandon, and I didn't allow myself to have downtime. So in retrospect, I know maybe that wasn't the best
Mhm.
way to cope, but I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do any bad
Right.
behaviors just to escape. I read a lot. Even the nurses, they told me, they're like, "You're reading again?" I'm like, "I love to read. It's more,
Mhm.
I didn't want to think.
Yeah.
Uh, I had my friend and I at the time, we had a business doing crafts, like we did
Okay.
custom gifts and apparel, and I dove into that. It's
Yeah.
making custom sweatshirts until all hours of the morning just so that I can escape. So if ever anybody is going through something, a very positive experience that came out of this is I became
Mhm.
a bookworm and I came extremely good at my craft. So
Mhm.
that's what we got through it. But honestly, afterwards, when prognosis is good, we were able to focus our efforts and our energies onto something that would give back, would have a reason for all
Yeah.
of this that happened. And that's how we created Dragons. But the journey was long.
So the level up inside of that was to keep your brain to stay focused on the positive, to keep your brain busy, to dig into reading. Were there any books that really stood out and helped you during that time period that you remember?
Well, they were all personal development books. I almost exclusively read that from morning till night. I'm like, I have to make myself better for him. One book I had started reading actually before the pandemic and before everything happened was Miracle Morning by Hal
Right.
Elrod. I feel like that book was so just transformational. It talks about a man who faced death, literally died at the scene of a horrible accident, was told that he would never walk again, and all sorts of things. And he actually persevered and he was resilient and he overcame that. He walked, he
Wow.
did marathons, and he really changed the way he woke up in the morning and what he did. So he created the miracle morning and he called them savers. Now this is
Okay.
I talk about this book to everybody. My husband's like, "Are you getting a commission?" I'm like, "No, this book changed the way I see things."
Mhm.
So you wake up and he still does this. Like I still follow him.
Right.
He still has a podcast and he has many different books. But basically what he says is you get up early in the morning when nobody else is awake. Do what other people can't do, and you do the savers, which is S is for silence. So it's
Mhm.
meditation. V is for write down your affirmations. V is for visualization of how you want your life to be, your day, your week, your month, whatever. E
Yes.
for exercise. I skipped that one. R is for reading. I do a lot
Mhm.
of that one. And S
Yes.
is for scribing. So for myself, I write gratitude. So before leading up, like
Right.
the 6 months leading up
Right.
to the world's going crazy, my son getting sick, I did that for 6 months. So I was pretty on track with that. And for
Right.
those 6 months following my son's his diagnosis, I
Mhm.
didn't do it. But I was able to get back at it. After the 6 months, I started slowly integrating it back in my life. And I
Right.
feel that it really helped me just, start my day with a bit of stillness and calmness and silence and just to ground myself. And make sure that whatever happens during the day, whatever news we get, whatever test he has to
Right.
endure, that, I'm coming from a calm place. When I've been doing it religiously now for the past, for I'd say for the past year, since January, and
It's
um,
this year. That's a bit that's making
June,
them
it's almost
building
4
that
months.
consistency. That's huge. I know
Right.
we are almost at April already, which is
Mhm.
that's
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I know you've
I'm
talked about
getting
that book before. Oh, pardon me?
yes. No, no, no. Yes, I talk about this book ad nauseum.
No, it's good. I need that reminder. I find that books always come into my life when I need them, and that somebody will suggest, "Have you read this?" And that's sort of how I find my way through different books. And I know that's one of the things I always enjoyed talking to you about was what book are you reading? And then
Yes,
you say, "Have you read this one?" And that would lead us down this path of
right.
which books. We might have to do a podcast episode just on
Just
what
books.
books have
Ah,
you
I
come
have them
across? What
here
books have come
actually.
across your path? So, but we could fill a whole episode on that.
Mhm.
So I find it interesting how you said there was a before and like the before you and the after you, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty major life changing event. But the fact that you chose to find resilience, that you chose to read professional, you can tell I was at work today, personal development, that you consciously made those choices when it was hard to try to look for or to flip your mindset into, how do we face today? We'll try to bring that calm with that and then one step at a time through that. So I appreciate
Yeah.
how much effort that takes, and I think the your willingness to share your story, I very much appreciate that because it's not an easy story to share. I'm very happy that everything shifted and started to
Mhm.
move in a much better direction, and I appreciate the how you took that experience and turned it into Brandon's buddies, how you want to pay that forward. Not just we made it, it worked out, but now you're giving back and supporting the people who supported you. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the foundation or the nonprofit? I'm not sure if there's one better way to describe it or not.
It's a nonprofit. It's a part of the bigger foundation at the Montreal Children's Hospital, which is
Okay.
the Montreal Children's Hospital Foundation. So we're a part of that. And
Okay.
whatever fundraising we do goes, we can allot it to whatever, but we've allotted it to the pediatric oncology department because that's where we spent the most time. But in truth, when a child has cancer, they literally see everybody. They have to go to the heart clinic. They have to get blood tests. They have to get x-rays. They have to do radiation at on the adult side. So we've literally used every single floor, surgery, aftercare, before care.
Mhm.
So and we could have fundraised for anybody. And it would have been relevant, but we decided to do it to oncology because that those are the people that saved his life. So that's what we do. We fundraise under their guidance also. And
Mhm.
we for the first year, so what we did, the first
Right.
party, it came to me like it was my birthday. I'm like, okay, we haven't told people about Brandon, but let's just fundraise for the hospital. We raised $1,000 in like 2 days. I'm like,
Wow.
this is cool. Like, hey,
Mhm.
maybe I can do it again. My husband's like, you can't do it again. People are going to continue giving.
Challenge
Okay,
accepted.
that all right. So I decided, like, let's.
Mhm.
There was something called the Splash and Dash, and they asked us
Right.
to if we could take part in it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's tell the world our story. We hadn't done anything; it'd been over 6 months. Like I said, it was very critical those 6 months. So after
Mhm.
that, we're like, let's tell everybody our story. Let's inspire people because it's not telling your story now. It's telling your story to people that have endured 6 or 7 months of staying in their house, not talking to people. The world has gone crazy.
Yeah.
And we're showing our story of, I get it. You're isolating. It's not easy. There's so many different things that you have to deal with. Mental health
Mhm.
crisis, to leveling up the mental health
Yes.
crisis. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're doing that and more, and we're still smiling. So I sat my son on my lap. He's bald at this point, and I
Mhm.
talked about the fundraising we're going to have. And my video, I guess I looked at pathetic enough. It circulated like 7,000 times.
Wow.
7,000 people saw it. We raised $14,000 that week for the oncology department. I'm like, I can do this again. So we just want to give back. So
Mhm.
then we created the
Yeah.
brand and studies, and we've had different things. Usually I make stuff. Like I said, I used to have a craft business, so I can make anything you want. And every
Mm.
Christmas I would make stuff to sell and raise money,
Right.
and then I would also make stuff for the children that are having treatments over Christmas. And then we'd have a February fundraiser. So now we're streamlining our efforts and having just smaller events that have more of an impact, less times throughout the year, so that we're not constantly fundraising, so we can have a bigger impact. So
Yeah.
we're having a lunch on April 27th at a restaurant downtown Montreal. It's actually a
Nice.
new restaurant and it's a childhood friend. So I'm very excited to support her. And
Nice.
yeah, it's gonna be a lunch and we're gonna have speakers, we're gonna have a raffle and prizes, and it's just gonna be an awesome lunchtime event for everybody, and we're gonna raise awareness. I'm hoping to get one of the doctors there to talk about some new research that they have regarding tumors. This is getting dark, but it's really awesome. Like, the research is amazing.
Well, I think the well, I'm a science teacher, so I'm always like, what does
Oh,
the research say? Is right. Biology. I was formerly a biology teacher, so I'm like, what does the research say? And I think when you
mhm,
combine that mindset, that positive mindset, those pieces that you talked about, that calm inside, so you can raise your vibrational level, whether you believe in the idea of the energy. And I think when you pair that with science, and Dr. Joe Dispenza has some really interesting research on the power of meditation and raising your vibrational level and how that can help within your body. And he's a doctor as well. But the science that can help anybody that's going through different types of illnesses or because it's scary. I did deal. It's not the same type of thing, but I did deal with melanoma,
mhm.
and that was after I'd had my daughter, and so that was scary when you go and they say, "Oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that," and then they call you while you're at work and say, "No, it's melanoma," and if anybody knows me, I shouldn't read all the research online because there's not a lot of good things out there about melanoma and different things, as I'm sure you encountered just because you're a reader and probably a
Right.
researcher. Sometimes you have to stay away from the internet because there's just too many things that, you need to put it in the context. You need the medical professional to help you interpret that. And
Yeah.
and even when they have that information for you, it's still not easy to move forward. But, the fact that there is new research and that you can be part of giving back so that that can help somebody else in the future. And there's a lot of lives that are impacted by the fundraising that you do and how that goes back to the doctors and the nurses and the researchers to find those new pieces. So
Yeah.
if anybody is interested in the show notes, I will put down the information and the links to what Angie has been sharing about Brandon's buddies. So if there's anything that you want, I'm sure you're able to reach out to Angie. I'll put her contact information as well. But just know that I think it just the fact that you chose to take a challenging and scary situation and you came through that and then said, we can use this to help others. We can use this to inspire is part of what I admire about you and the energy that you bring to life that you can give back, and you have a lot happening. You have a young son, you are commuting to work to get him to daycare, you are managing multiple things online. So your time management skills are like ninja level, I think, in how you go about organizing life. And we never really had a chance to dig in and talk more about that foundation and how you give back. So you said that's happening in April. It's a
Yeah.
lunch, but people could donate online at any point if they're interested, correct?
Exactly. So, like you alluded to, I do have a side hustle that I did research on last
Yeah.
year. So, um, I do websites, social media, and so I created my own website for Brandon's Buddies. I did it really quick, so nobody judged my work. I had to get the tickets out, but if you want, I can
Mhm.
give you the link to the website, and you can see as I upload everything that we've been a
Yeah.
part of. We've done press conferences, we've done news, we've been interviewed by different news outlets over time regarding our story. And then the tickets are also available, or any future events. You can have information on those for sure.
Awesome. So if you're listening or watching this episode, be sure to check the show notes. I'll put all of that information in there. And Angie's referring to, I think it's sites and socials, I want to
Sites and
say.
socials. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did you because that's what I love about you. You're like, I took this course online, Steph, you should take it. So I'm still working through the AI course. Angie flew through it. Like, did you know you can do this? So she's using leveraging AI to help with social media marketing. So if you have questions about that, I definitely need to book in with Angie. So tell us a little bit about sites and socials.
Yeah, so it's literally managing websites and social sites. So as it is right now, so what got me interested in it is because I had my small business, I knew how important it was to market properly, but I had zero experience. I had the tools that I was using, it was archaic. I wasn't really interested in digging deep and figuring out how to use these processes and how to use
Right.
these tools. There's so many tools out there, but I was just not interested. So I did what I thought I should do.
Right.
And simultaneous to us building our business, we did well, but there
Mhm.
were other businesses that were just making the same stuff as us and marketing so much better. I'm like, there has to be a better way. Like I have
Right.
to learn this. So we decided to close the business. And then I'm like, it's helping other people here and there. And they're like, you're really good at this. I am. So I decided, yeah, let me figure out how to use these tools, you know? So
Yep.
I learned about SEO, about ad management, about all these things. And I was just fascinated. I work at a tech company now, which is a
Hey.
right. Because if you would have told me 5 years ago, you're going to work at a tech company and you're going to be excited, I'd be like,
Yeah, I'm like, that sounds so exciting to work at a tech company.
right? But no, it was totally not my thing. And I just love it now. Like I'm so intrigued and AI has just like blown my
Yes.
mind. Like I only have touched the surface of everything. And no, there's so much power there.
Yes.
So
See, there's a
psych-
whole other podcast series that we can do with things that Angie knows and marketing and how does that work and the psychology of it. AI is a whole other area to dig into that I'm really curious about. So I've started to dig into more of that. We're looking at how it impacts education, but also
Mhm.
the network or the not the network, the marketing research that you can do to build a network to connect with people if you know the right prompts, the way to prompt engineer, which is basically how to ask the right question. It will take you it will create all sorts of amazing resources for you way faster than Googling, where Google will say, here's 50,000 sites with information. AI
Exactly.
will be like, here was the question you asked, and I've summarized it all for you here. And then you can say, make it shorter, make it longer, do this research. It just depends on what you need to put in. So I think that's certainly a topic we should dig into in the future. I love that you work at a tech company now because like you said, you went from banking, you were in, what was the other company you were with in the past?
The
Was
co
it
It's called, yeah, it was a construction literally
right?
construction company. It was like a company where if you had something to renovate your house, then we would help you get in contact with vetted contractors. So that was a lot of fun too.
Yes, you've had a very diverse travel through life with all sorts of experiences, and I like that you said, "So I was interested in AI, so I learned it."
So
So that mindset, you have a very strong growth mindset. If I'm interested, I can learn more about it. There's no reason I can't learn that or switch careers
I
or
love it.
work in a tech company, and I think that's exciting that you're brave enough to make that leap from one to another. Because sometimes we get comfortable in things, and then I was in my last episode, I was thinking about comfort zone and how we get so comfortable, we don't actually
Mhm.
grow. So the idea of a comfort zone where you think we'd be more apt to try new things because we're in a safe space. We try less things because we get so comfortable and we almost get afraid of stepping out of that comfort zone.
Mhm.
So I love how you just bust through it and be like, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to learn this and we'll start a nonprofit and we'll give back and do all of those amazing things. So
At post sickness, because pre sickness, I'd still be writing the business plan. It would be 3 years of a perfect business plan.
so do you feel that you
Now
are a recovering perfectionist?
a little bit. You know about that. I know you see it.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I am a recovering perfectionist and you said earlier, and I wrote it down because I'm like, "Oh, that's a question I wanted to ask." And so you segued into it really nice. you said, don't judge the website. I like it's messy. I got it going, but I think you just highlighted that sometimes you just have to take action
Just do it.
and do it. Right. And we talked about podcasting years ago, and
So, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. You did it.
I did it messy. I just started and it was really hard. I took a podcasting course and Kathy Heller said, your assignment is to record a trailer. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I like tech. Like, let's go. She's like, but you have to do it like a C student. And I'm like, do you, my head might have gone, what? Like, I don't, if I'm in, I'm all in to do it well. But she's like, nope, you just have to do it like a C student because progress is better than perfection. And you just have to get out there and make it messy. And Kelsey Murphy was one of the other trainers. And she said, don't even worry about the name of your podcast or what you're doing until you hit episode 50. By episode 50, you'll find your voice. She said, you just have to start. But it was really hard to record it, like just record it and then put it out there. And the sound wasn't
Mhm.
quite perfect. And I re recorded it probably 30 times because I didn't like how the phrasing went. And so it's hard to let go of that. So if you're listening to this episode and you are also a recovering perfectionist, good for you for being in the recovery stage where progress is what we go for, that we take action and we just do it messy because life will pass you by while you're waiting to write that business plan. So how did you switch that? Because I always admire when people can just say like, and tomorrow I'm doing this. So how did you go from the pre with the perfect business plan to the I'm running 7 different things at the same time and we're going? Was there a moment or anything that happened that pushed you?
I don't know. Like I kind of look back and say like that line was drawn that day. I think it just happened over the course of 2020 because so okay, you know what? Actually, I know what happened. When I applied to the position,
Mhm.
uh, I was on a leave of absence from the bank. Clearly, I wasn't working when my
Yeah.
son was in the hospital, and then I decided to go back to work. And I didn't want to go to banking. I decided I'm not going to do banking. And I think at that moment, I realized I wasn't afraid of where I'd end up. I
Mhm.
wasn't looking for the next role to make sure that I can help with the bills or that I can
Right.
make my RSP contributions this year. I was going into the role because I'm going to be happy. Because after what I just had with my son, there's zero way that I'm gonna spend time away from him in something that I hate. There was no way, and in 2019, it so happened that I was working at the bank, and it didn't have nothing to do with the bank. The bank that I was working for was wonderful, quite frankly. It was a great experience, but, I remember that Halloween, somebody had called in sick, which happens at the bank, and I was the
Yep.
manager, so I stayed to make sure that, everything was okay, and I missed my son's Halloween. Then my son got cancer. And then I always look back at that point and say, I will never do that again. I don't identify myself with where I work. I am my own person and I go through life not scared now. So I actually got laid off um, in October.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was okay. I liked it. I was upset
Yeah.
that, okay, well, I'm not going to grow with the company. Like, oh, that
Right.
sucks. But I was not devastated. I wasn't even scared. I was like, "Okay, I'll find something better." And I did.
Yeah.
And I think when you have that, like, when you go through life afraid
Mhm.
of something and you do something because you need to or you think you need to, you don't
Mhm.
get the best out of life. So, I think that was the moment that I realized I was different, because before that, I was stressed out all the time,
Yeah.
you know?
You said so many things in that last little clip. My brother-in-law Ross said when he went he still works as a miner, but he's also in becoming a financial advisor. And he said that was never a role that I saw myself in. And he said his best thing that never happened was that he didn't say no to somebody coming over and sharing the opportunity with him. but he said when he went to one of the meetings and he was learning, he said somebody had up on the wall, there's the pain of change and the pain of regret. And he
Mm.
said, yeah, the pain of change is never going to be worse than that pain of regret. And I think you're that moment where everything seems normal. And yeah, I had to work late because somebody like those things happen. But the perspective that going through having a son that's sick, that's dealing with cancer, that shifts everything. It
Yep.
shifts how you see the world. And then you said identity. You said our identity is so tied up in our job, but
Hmm.
that's not us. Our job doesn't define us. We define ourselves. We are who we are. And that shift in mindset is so very powerful. And the research that I've been doing about how do you create shifts and how do you shift habit, one of the major pieces to that is the identity. Who is the future you that you want to be? What's the identity that you want to create? And then make those small shifts that step you closer and closer towards that future identity.
Yep.
And because you connect it to that, you're more likely to stay. But I love that you brought that identity in and that you're not scared anymore and that you're laughing about I got laid off. That's okay. You said, I'll find something better. Not that it's not scary in the moment. And I'm sure that there's frustration and emotions that go with that.
Oh,
But
I was mad.
yeah,
I was like, "You're what?" But no, I mean, it is. I'm not the first. I'm not the last.
mhm.
Like we're living in a very unstable economy, so it was okay. I even joked to my husband. I'm like, I got 2 weeks off. He's like, oh my god. I'm like, I'm not working. It
I
wasn't
love how you
bad.
flip that into that and how you took what you learned, you shifted your perspective and that you're honest that you're like, yeah, I would be mad too if something happened like that. But then you turn that into, I got 2 weeks off. I'm gonna find something
Break it.
better. Right? Because
That's it.
I know you go through life and you encounter different people and there's people who everything's bad and it spirals and it's, the world's
Hmm.
out to get me and it's somebody else's fault. And you're saying, "This happened, wasn't great, but I can find something better. I'm not afraid to do something better." And the important piece is my family and those moments and the memories that I have with them because life is short and we never know what might happen tomorrow. So live
Hmm.
in this moment, move yourself on a positive path, put your mindset in that space to always get better. And I think you've mentioned a lot of different habits on our journey through the podcast episode so far. Is there a habit that you do now that you did talk about the savor, the morning savor that you still
Hmm.
continue to do?
Yeah.
Is there another habit that you'd like to mention to people that's helped you to stay consistent? Because consistency and that discipline to keep doing it really makes a difference, right? We can all start things and
Right.
then we get busy and then things happen and then now it's really a long time. Yeah, I'm too far
Mhm.
away to start again. So how did you maintain that consistency or is there a habit that helps you to stay consistent?
So if you can believe it, I read 3 types of books a day. Okay.
Nice.
Post sometimes on Instagram, like, I read this, oh, I read this, oh, I read
Yeah.
this. And like, there's actually 3 that I haven't posted about because I don't think people will believe me. But I have a habit of having 3 different times in my day to read books. When you
Nice.
book, you get immersed into a whole different world. So I do it also. So, okay, I love doing this. So in the morning, I read physical books because
Okay.
there's light. After my well, during my savers, because one is reading, I use it's usually a book of personal development. So right now I'm actually learning it's right over there. It's called The First 90 Days and it's what to
Mhm.
do in a new role or a new company or a new mandate
Right.
in first 90
Yeah.
days. So I'm
Yeah.
like almost done that one so I can get started with my new role. So I do that in the morning during the savers. And then during the day, I'm listening. I'm
Yep.
listening to books. So
Yep.
during my lunch, preparing my breakfast, I am listening to a book. And what I found on LinkedIn was there was this post that says you want to do your own personal MBA in 6 months, read these books. I'm like, let me see
Nice.
these books. So I've been reading. I've been listening to
Mhm.
these. And they're so diverse. I mean, one is going from 0 to 1. The other one is about finance. The one I'm listening to
Yeah.
right now is about finance, and it's so interesting. I mean, finance is bland as can be, but they're making it very interesting because they're talking about this is how you can make the numbers dance, to show
I
what you
like
want
that.
to show. And yeah, it's like
Numbers
very
dance. Mhm.
CSI forensic. And then at night I use my Kindle because it's dark, and
Yes.
that's when I have a fiction book. And that's a new habit because I didn't like fiction before, but now
Mhm.
I'm actually like, who killed him? I'm like, I
I
can't
know.
wait.
I love that. We will definitely have to
Yeah.
do an episode on what are you reading, because I think that
Yes.
reading habit, I like how so my first wonder was, do you schedule that? Like, do you have like the morning is when you get up and then you listen during the day? Is there a certain time that kind of is when you put those in, or it's just sort of start the day, throughout the day, and then end the day?
Right. It's literally every time I'm in my car, if my son's not in the car and I'm not subjected to Peppa Pig, then I have the audiobook. And I cannot listen to anything at 1.0 speed. I have to listen to it to like 1.2 or 1.5. I speak fast. I listen fast. Um,
Yes.
and studies have shown that it's okay. You can do that. You still absorb the material. Okay. So I've looked that up just to make sure I wasn't wasting my time. So yeah, so you can do that with audiobooks during the day. Whenever
Yes.
I'm walking around, if I'm cleaning
Mhm.
anything, I have it in my ear so I can listen to it.
I think you could probably have your own podcast or just blog about what am I reading this week?
Books.
What books do I have on the go? I love that you said it's okay to have multiple books on the go, because
Mhm.
part of part of my personality was like if I start one, then I have to finish it. But now
I
I
was
have
like that
multiple
too.
books on the go. I listen to books while I drive. When I commute, that's when I listen to books. Except my daughter now goes to school, and we commute in the morning because my husband got a different job, so he's a principal of
Mhm.
a school. So now we're driving. And so now we listen. She DJs, but like you said, the memories and the moments and the conversation in the car are what's important. My reading time has decreased slightly, but when I'm alone, I listen to all sorts of books, and I won't get into those now because we'll have a separate podcast on that one.
Right.
But when I get to work, I was trying to build into my day. That's why I was curious about, do you schedule it? I was trying to read, 3 or 4 pages, and then that I was good for a while, and then I got out of the habit. But at lunch,
Mm.
get up and I leave the building, I go for a walk, and I listen to a motivational app. So it has celebrities and
Oh yeah, you
athletes,
told me about
and
that one.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I listen to that because it has music. Well, so when I walk, then I can walk really fast. People are
Right.
like, What song are you listening to?" I'm like, "It's a pep talk by Kobe Bryant, or today is Matthew McConaughey, or today is Tony Robbins, or any multitude of people, but amazing things that I learn." I'm always like,
Mhm.
"Guess what I learned at lunch?" And people are like, "What were you listening to again?" And you hesitated and you said, "I read, but I listen." I said, listening is a whole other form of reading.
Mhm.
And then I usually end the day with a fiction book, because if I do something that's more personal growth, then I'm like, "Oh, I should highlight that." And then I'm thinking
Right.
about it, and then it doesn't really help my brain turn off.
Mhm.
My brain needs.
100%.
And that's where we will pause part 1, right before we dig into the soul questions of the Mind Game podcast. Thank you to Angie for sharing her story and reflecting on the before and after version of who she was and who she is now. I'm curious, do you have a defining moment or moments where you were faced with a challenge? Did you work through it, as many of our guests have mentioned? Or did an earlier version of you attempt to go around it? Or maybe you're like the rest of us and we're still trying to figure it out. As I reflect on this episode, the quotation that keeps circling back is that the magic is in the mess that you are avoiding. What resonated for me was that even when the fight seems overwhelming, we have a choice in how we respond. The moments may not be easy, but we can choose a response with the potential to fuel resilience. Who are you? What's the first thing that came to mind when I said that? Angie reminded us that it's often in those difficult moments when our perspective rebalances, and when we realize we are not defined by our job titles, but rather who we choose to be and the decisions that we make. The recovering perfectionist in me appreciated Angie's push to take action rather than perfecting the plan. I say to myself, progress beats perfection every time. And remembering that you can choose to make a difference for those walking in your footsteps. The creation of Brandon's Buddies, showcasing the incredible impact of turning personal trials into a mission to help others. Angie's journey is a profound reminder that amidst life's challenges, there lies an endless opportunity for growth, learning, and giving back. Her story invites us to embrace the concept of leveling up, not just in the moments of ease, but during adversity as well. Thank you, Angie, for inspiring us to reframe our challenges and step closer to the person we want to be. Be sure to join us on the next episode as we dig into the soul questions of the Mind Game podcast. Thanks for listening. Here's your Mind Game Episode 17 challenge. Share this episode and one book or podcast that's helped you level up your life. Hashtag it, level up your life. Thank you for choosing to listen to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. We hope that you've enjoyed the insights, inspiration, and habits shared in this episode. Your support is a game changer, and we are incredibly grateful to be on this journey with such an amazing community of listeners. If you have any wonders, questions, or suggestions about this or future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media and share your feedback. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring valuable content to you, our listeners. Don't want to miss the next episode? Join our Facebook group and email list and get ahead of the game. Until next time, remember to mind the game so that you can get out of your own way and level up your life.